And the problem is, if you say, "Oh, you can't judge her defensive or her offensive numbers," but like she's meant to be a defensive player, she is the worst defensive player on this team. No question about it. She is the worst defensive player on the Indiana Fever. And it's so funny. Anytime I make a negative video about Lexie, I'll lose 10 subscribers. Like I've lost.
That is not a small criticism. He is saying Lexie Hall is supposed to survive in this lineup because of defense. And yet he believes defense is now part of the problem. But the bigger question is not whether Lexie is having a bad stretch. It is whether Indiana has reached the point where loyalty to what she used to provide is starting to conflict with what this team actually needs to become.
Does she play defense? And the problem is, she's still playing 15, 20 minutes a game. There's no, like, she has what, 10 points combined? She's averaging 2.5 points per game over the last 4. 2.5 points per game. She's had more games this season where she's had more fouls than points than she's had 10-point games. Like she has 5 10-point games in the season. I think she has 7 games with more fouls than points.
Because the offensive numbers are getting harder to explain away over the 4-game stretch he is referencing, Hall was around 2 and 1 to 2 points per game. He also points out that she has had 7 games this season with more fouls than points compared with 5 games where she reached double figures. Well, those are ugly numbers for any regular rotation player, but especially for somebody still getting meaningful minutes on a team that believes it can contend. And there is one part of this argument that gets much more uncomfortable later. This is not simply a debate about whether Indiana should change starters for a couple of games. Once you connect Hull's production to the money committed to the roster, this becomes a Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell team building question. That is where the conversation changes completely.
I wonder, like, what is her points per game in losses? 9 or 4.5. Under 4. She got 5 in a loss. 2 in a loss, 0 in a loss, 9 in a loss, 2 in a loss. In fairness, she had 14 in a loss against LA. And then, again, 2 in a loss, 6 in a loss, 1 in a loss. Like she's averaging about, I'd say she's averaging about 3 points per game in losses.
Look at the pattern he is highlighting in losses. 5 points, 2-0-9-2, then the 14-point game against Los Angeles, followed by more nights of 2-6-1. Nobody expects Hall to become a 20-point scorer. That has never been her role. That there is a difference between being a low-usage player and becoming so limited offensively that the opponent can effectively remove you from its defensive priorities. That matters because spacing is not just about 3-point percentage on a stat sheet. Spacing is about whether a defender believes there will be consequences for leaving you. If the weak side defender is comfortable shrinking the floor, clogging Caitlin Clark's driving and passing lanes, helping toward Kelsey Mitchell, and daring somebody else to make the play, Indiana's entire offense becomes harder. And that is why 3 points can matter more than 3 points. If Hall is not scoring, not creating off the bounce, and not forcing aggressive closeouts, every possession puts more creation responsibility onto the stars.
What's she averaging against playoff teams? Which is an interesting one. So against playoff teams, 4.5. Again, just over 4.5. Just over that. And 2-0-9. 2-6-1. 8. Is 8 her season? 9 is her season high against a playoff team. No, say 10. She's had 10 points. And that was a blowout game without AJ Wilson. That was a blowout without AJ Wilson when it was a bench v bench. She has scored double digits once against a playoff team.
The playoff team split makes the criticism sharper. According to the numbers being read here, Hall had reached double figures against a playoff caliber opponent only once, and that came in a blowout situation without Asa Wilson. Again, context matters. Hall is not being paid to lead Indiana in shot attempts. She is not supposed to be Kelsey Mitchell, but championship rotations are ruthless. Opponents spend a playoff series finding the one player they can ignore, the one matchup they can hunt, and the one weakness they can repeatedly force into the action. If that player cannot punish the strategy on the other end, coaches keep pressing the same button until you change the lineups. That is the real standard Indiana is moving toward, not whether Hull can help them survive a random Tuesday in the regular season. Can she stay on the floor during the fourth quarter of a playoff game when every possession becomes a matchup hunt?
Like, at what point do we just come out there and say, like, she's just not good enough? And the Fever have to get off her. I don't think people get it. If Lexie Hull and Monique Billings stay on this team, the Fever can't afford Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. Like, the more they play her, it feels like the more they're going to have to attach to get off her contract. Like, I was seeing all these things about how, all of these things about how Lexie Hull is untouchable in trade talks. About how they're going to keep the core four together. What are we talking about core four? She's terrible. If Lexie Hull's in your core four, you're not a serious basketball team.
And this is where emotion collides with roster construction. Lexie Hull became easy for Indiana fans to root for because her story made sense. She was the player who worked, defended, hit the floor, fought for minutes, and appeared capable of giving the team more than her role allowed. When a fan base watches someone earn opportunity through effort, attachment follows naturally. But once expectations rise, the evaluation changes. A player can be useful to an improving team and still become a problem for a team trying to win a championship. Calling somebody part of a core four is not just a compliment. It implies that this player is one of the pieces around which you are making future decisions. It means other opportunities may be rejected because you already believe that position is solved. That is why his reaction is so intense. His argument is not merely that Hull is playing badly. It is that Indiana risked confusing familiarity with indispensability, and contenders cannot afford that mistake. The best teams continuously ask a cruel question. If we were building this roster from scratch today at today's price, would we still make this decision? If the answer changes, sentiment cannot be the thing that stops you from adapting. Next,
It is the worst contract in the league. Katie Lou Samuelson is playing better than Lexie Hull right now. She's off an ACL. Like, Katie Lou is playing better than her. She is one of the highest paid wings in the league. I want to see, is there, like, what wings are getting paid more than her in the league? Let's look at a average year by year. So, what wings are getting paid more? As in, like, threes. Bridget Carlton on a max. You know what? You could pay Bridget Carlton 3 max contracts and she'd still be outperforming.
now we reach the money comparison, and this is where the entire debate starts getting serious. The speaker argues Hull is one of the highest paid wings in the league relative to what she is currently producing. Then immediately starts comparing her to players he believes provide more offense, more defense, or both. You can disagree with individual comparisons. Different contracts are signed in different situations. Different players have different roles. Age matters. Free agent leverage matters. Team context matters. But the broader point survives all of that. Once a player moves from bargain contract to meaningful financial commitment, the standard changes. Hustle becomes something you appreciate, not something that automatically justifies the salary. That is brutal, but that is professional basketball. When a low-cost player gives you defense, rebounding, and occasional shooting, you say great value. When a higher-paid player gives you exactly the same production or less, suddenly you ask what else that money could have purchased. That is the opportunity cost fans often ignore when discussing contracts. The question is never just, is this player useful? It is this player more useful than the alternatives that same cap space could have created? And Indiana's situation makes that question more important because they are not building around ordinary players. They have Caitlin Clark, they have Kelsey Mitchell. Their window to surround elite offensive talent with complementary pieces is extremely valuable. Every major salary slot affects what type of shooter, defender, secondary creator, or front court piece can fit around them. Next,
Gabby Williams, maybe the depoy. Alicia Gray, all-star. Copper, all-star. Taylor McBride, snubbed of an all-star, but an all-star. Marina Mabry, okay, scorer. Sykes, at least plays defense, but got injured. Was going to be an all-star. Atkins, okay, Atkins has been not great for 1.1 million. The fact it's 1.1 over 3 is a bad contract, but still, at least she's going to give you double digits. At least she's going to do it, at least she's going to give you double-digit points. Kennedy Burke, 1-year contract. Still better than Lexie. Maybe Satu's a worse contract than Lexie. But like, Lexie Hull's getting paid more than Kayla Thornton. Kayla Thornton was an all-star last year. She was an all-star. Michaela Onyeabor is so much better than Lexie. I can't believe I'm saying that she's better than Lexie. Kyla Charles is way better than Lexie. She's on significantly less money. Tip Hayes is on significantly...
Listen to those names. Gabby Williams, all-star level players, proven scorers, wings with reputations as defenders, players who can attack a closeout, switch assignments, or create something when the first action dies. This is why the comparison becomes uncomfortable for Hall. Her best argument has historically been that she could impact a game without needing the basketball. That archetype is valuable. Every star needs teammates who defend, cut, rebound, and do not hijack possessions. But the archetype only works when those things remain strengths. If the shooting drops and the defense is no longer trusted against elite matchups, then what is the premium skill keeping you on the floor? Rebounding from the wing helps, effort matters, cutting matters, chemistry matters. None of those things are meaningless, but a championship level starter generally needs at least one skill that changes what the opponent can do. Elite shooting changes coverage. Elite defense changes matchups. Elite creation changes possessions. If a player is simply competent across several smaller areas without being threatening anywhere, postseason basketball can expose that profile quickly. And there is a counter-argument that deserves to be acknowledged. Hull has previously shown she can shoot better than this. Players go through stretches, roles change, confidence changes, lineup combinations can make somebody look worse than they really are. So declaring that this version of Lexie Hull is permanent would be premature. But Indiana cannot make decisions based entirely on the possibility that an older version reappears. At some point, current production becomes the evidence...
Because, by all accounts, he wants to leave Minnesota. They're there for the taking. They're there for the taking. But the problem is that at the taking up 800k salary cap room next season is a player who doesn't shoot, doesn't defend, is a decent rebounder from a wing, can't dribble, doesn't create her own shot, is like not a good off-ball defender anymore, is foul prone, doesn't pass well. Like, she's not even cutting like she used to.
This is the payoff that makes the criticism bigger than one struggling starter. He is arguing that the financial commitment could directly limit Indiana's ability to chase another significant piece. The exact future cap math will depend on league rules, contracts, and subsequent roster moves. But the team building principle is obvious. Money committed to one player is money unavailable somewhere else. And with Caitlin Clark, Indiana's ideal roster blueprint should be incredibly clear. You want shooting that punishes teams for loading toward Clark. You want perimeter defenders capable of taking the hardest assignment so Clark can conserve energy. You want players who can attack a bent defense when Clark creates the first advantage. You want size that does not destroy spacing. And most importantly, you want versatility because playoff basketball becomes a game of identifying and attacking limitations. Now compare that blueprint with the list of concerns he gives here. Not creating her own shot, limited ball handling, questionable passing impact, foul problems, and declining off-ball defense. That is why this conversation is happening. Not because Lexie Hull suddenly forgot how to play basketball. Not because effort disappeared. The problem is fit at the level Indiana wants to reach. A player can still have useful qualities while no longer being the right starter for a contender. Those two statements can exist at the same time.
Great human. Her effort will never be questioned. But I'm sorry, when your contract goes up, when you're making 80, 90k, when you're shoved on the end of the bench for Christy Wallace, and you're coming in and giving 100% effort, diving on balls, referees are, the way the game is being refereed suits your style of play, everything. It's easy to get behind that player. It's easy to get behind a player who is shoved on the end of the bench for an inferior player, who's coming out there giving their all, diving on loose balls, hitting big shots. But like, even in 2024, she wasn't stepping up. Like, in the playoffs, she was terrible. Coming up to the playoffs, she was terrible. She had a 5-game hot streak.